Kicking off this list at number 10, The Bourne Supremacy. With this movie being the second addition to the Bourne series, The Bourne Supremacy took everything of what made the Bourne identity so great by cranking things up to 11. As the movie opens with the shocking death of his girlfriend Marie, Jason Bourne is immediately set on a path of vengeance against a CIA assassin played by Carl Urban, resulting in a more darker approach with this film. Replacing Doug Liman with Paul Greengrass for the director's seat was a masterstroke, because with a more added emotional core and building on the mystery of where Jason Bourne came from, Greengrass did such an excellent job of really taking things up to a whole nother level by improving upon everything from identity. From the way he superbly elevated the story by tackling the themes of loss and guilt, doing a lot better job with the camera work, the hand-to-hand combat scenes were better, and the car chase sequence were absolutely remarkable, including the infamous taxi chase sequence in Moscow. The Bourne Supremacy was such a magnificent addition to the Bourne series, as it perfectly adapted from the Robert Ludlum books, whilst allowing Matt Damon to do all the heavy lifting as the tragic former killer. Coming at number 9, Baby Driver. Edgar Wright's noir-tinged movie Baby Driver is an action musical that is part thrilling heist caper, part jukebox romance, and a full-blown adrenaline rush, all backed by an absolute killer soundtrack. It's definitely like his most fun movie because this was unlike any of his previous works, swapping comedy for car chases but retaining that same sense of fun throughout. And the way the action is set to the music is a stunning feat of direction, cinematography, choreography, and editing. Plus, the film has such an excellent cast, from Ansel Elgort as Baby, Lily James as his love interest Deborah, a cameo from John Bernthal, Jamie Foxx as the maniac Bats, Kevin Spacey, and even John Hamm. Baby Driver brilliantly showcased why Edgar Wright is one of Hollywood's most gifted actors, and sees him moving up on levels in terms of style and execution, and it's just a pure joyride of a movie. Number 8, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. Now, this is unquestionably my favorite of the John Wick series so far. With John Wick Chapter 3 being the third installment of the John Wick series so far, the legendary hitman is fighting his way out of New York after a $14 million bounty was put on his head, making him the target of some of the most dangerous assassins around the world. As usual, Keanu Reeves gets some of the best moments in this film, but you also have other cast members getting the opportunity to get their time to shine as well. From Mark Dacascos as the vicious assassin Zero, to Halle Berry as the luscious badass Sophia, and even Keanu Reeves' Matrix co-star Lawrence Fishburne. John 3 is exactly what audiences demand from this franchise and delivers a non-stop action, tightly choreographed scenes, impeccable camera work, and an intense performance from Keanu Reeves. Coming at number 7, The Fugitive. Managing to maintain a frantic pace from the get-go, The Fugitive is a masterclass in how you craft a suspenseful action thriller that juggles mystery and suspense with set pieces and tropes that are part and parcel of the genre. You have Harrison Ford as Dr. Richard Kimball, who's been wrongfully accused for the murder of his wife. As Richard Kimball escapes on his way to death row, he does everything he can to prove his innocence while also trying to avoid being taken down by the police. What makes Richard Kimball a great protagonist is that he's got skills and motivation to outrun his conspirators, and seeing him discover all the clues he needs to find the actual killers is absolutely thrilling, mainly due to Harrison Ford's emotional performance. The film also features a brilliant supporting performance from Tommy Lee Jones, who portrays the disgruntled yet clever investigator, U.S. Marshal Sam Gerard, who slowly learns about Kimball's story. Tightly plotted and packed with action, thrills, and suspense, The Fugitive is genre filmmaking at its most efficient, bolstered by a great script and 2 amazing lead performances. Coming at number 6, Rush Hour. Ah yes, the first Rush Hour movie. What a classic gem this is. Directed by Brett Ratner, Rush Hour took the traditional good cop, poor cop routine and blended it with some comedy and language barriers to create this iconic film starring comedian Chris Tucker and legendary martial artist Jackie Chan. The amazing chemistry between Chan and Tucker really fuels the entire film, especially with the plot being very simple yet thoroughly entertaining, with the immense comedy adding to its excellence. Unlike most buddy cop movies, Rush Hour blended the equal amounts of cop work and humor to keep the film funny and thrilling all at the same time. Packed with stellar action scenes with Jackie Chan's unique stunt style and acrobatic abilities, mixed with Chris Tucker's trademark humor, Rush Hour not only proved to be a critical and commercial success, but it also spawned 2 successful sequels. Number 5, Mad Max Fury Road. Now, this was quite of a surprise for me. Out of all the action movies on this list, I've never came across anything like Mad Max Fury Road. Spending over 30 years in development hell, Mad Max Fury Road is a movie that should have been a recipe for disaster. But somehow, someway, George Miller managed to not only top himself in terms of action, but also delivering some of the most death-defying stunt work ever committed to film. He also crafted a film that substantially blows all of the previous Mad Max movies out of the water. Everything in this movie was just executed so well, from the acting, the writing, writing, the soundtrack, and especially the cinematography, which was absolutely dazzling. Plus, I really love how this movie was done with practical effects than CGI, which really helped brought a sense of realism to the action sequences. Tom Hardy's performance as Max Rockatansky was pretty stellar, but Charlize Theron was eventually the show stealer as the eternal badass Imperator Furiosa. Bolstered by two great lead performances by Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, George Miller managed to not only exceed expectations, but to come out with a film that I would consider a true. Coming at number 4, Speed. One of the most exceptionally crafted action movies of the 90s. Speed is probably like the only movie that I would literally call a non-stop action flick because it felt like an adrenaline rush from beginning to end. It's an expertly assembled high-concept action movie that delivers 91 minutes of gut-wrenching suspense. The film follows Keanu Reeves as LAPD officer Jack Traven, who tracks down a bus that has a bomb in it, and it's all up to him and Annie Porter, played by Sandra Bullock, to make sure that the bus stays above 50 miles per hour to prevent it from exploding it. Bullock and Reeves did such an incredible job of carrying this entire movie on their backs, especially with the both of them having such immense chemistry with each other. In addition, it also featured the late Dennis Hopper as a very menacing, yet a very exceptional Terrence Howard Payne. The movie may have a very simple premise, but it never served up the dull moment for me because it kept me engaged throughout its entirety. Filled with twists and turns that intensifies the entire film, Speed is a literal non-stop joyride that always keeps me at the edge of my seat until its climactic conclusion. Number 3, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. God, I love this movie. To me, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a damn near perfect fusion of action and humor that set the standard for action-adventure movies. Best buddies George Lucas and Steven Spielberg collaborated to turn their love of old-school adventure serials from the 1940s and 30s into what might very well be the greatest action movie ever made, with Harrison Ford superbly casted as the easygoing, whip-cracking, charismatic protagonist Indiana Jones, and set a template that just about every modern action flick aspires to be. With having no flaws to find throughout the entire film's runtime, Spielberg and Lucas managed to capture lightning in a bottle as Raiders of the Lost Ark delivered a damn near perfect story of studio filmmaking of the highest caliber that has become a timeless classic over 4 decades later. Coming at number 2, The Bourne Ultimatum. With this movie being the third and easily the best of the Bourne series, The Bourne Ultimatum is everything that an action movie should be. Jason Bourne is on the run as he tries to discover the truth about his past of who he is and where he came from, and the story is so intriguing, especially with Matt Damon, who completely owns the role of Jason Bourne with his incredible performance. Building on the mysteries and the characters of the first 2 movies and answering some big questions about Jason Bourne and his past, Ultimatum has some brilliant storytelling that is packed with mind-blowing action set pieces, from the incredible chase sequence and the intense hand-to-hand combat sequence with Desh. It beautifully wraps up the Jason Bourne trilogy on a high note with a conclusion that was thoroughly satisfying, or at least it would have been satisfying if they hadn't released that 2016 movie, which was very uninspiring to say the least, but the less said about that, the better. And coming at number 1, Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair. Now, it really should be no secret that Quentin Tarantino has always been a filmmaker heavily inspired by his favorite movies. Perhaps nowhere near is this more evident than in the Kill Bill movies, a gleefully excessive tale of revenge which mashes up everything from anime, Hong Kong action, spaghetti westerns, and the classic revenge thriller. It's also one of his few effective homages, held together by a dynamic, no-nonsense performance from Uma Thurman as the instantly iconic Beatrix Kiddo, aka The Bride. The Bride goes on a vengeful quest as she shoots and slices her way through wave after wave of enemies in the hunt for the eponymous head of the group of assassins. Shot in a variety of styles, the aesthetics of the film change regularly to keep the excitement and the action fresh. It's packed with a handful of incredible action set pieces, from the crazy 88 scene along with the final duel with Oren Ishii, played by Lucy Liu in Volume 1, all the way to the infamous 5-point palm exploding heart technique with Michael Carradine in Volume 2. Relentlessly violent from start to finish, Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair is such an exhilarating action epic that is so masterfully crafted with brilliant dialogue from the one and only Quentin Tarantino.